So I recently spent a week in Nicaragua for under $500. Renting a car saved a lot of money on transportation. It was only $220 for the entire week, which was $110 per person. And y'all, driving was very easy. They're on the right-hand side of the road, just like the US, so if you're familiar with that, you're good. And let me back up for a second. We actually landed the night before in Managua. We spent a night there and then drove an hour and a half to Leon. Since this was more like a backpacking trip, we only actually spent a night here in Leon, so we just walked around, explored, and of course, found the beach. We ate at Playa Roca, which was right next to the water. They had some really good local food. The beach was La Piñeras Beach, and it had a much more chill vibe than I expected. I kept hearing about it being a surfer's beach, so I was expecting large waves, really rocky sand, just not really the place for swimmers to chill. But it turned out to be really, really nice, and that sunset was an added bonus. I gotta say, Leon was a whole vibe. So for our one night in Leon, we stayed at this really cute boutique hotel called Hotel Flor de Sarta. This gorgeous hotel was only $63 total, which was $31 per person, and breakfast was included. The next morning, checkout was pretty easy. Most places will take credit card, but they do prefer cash. After checkout, we jumped in the shiny red whip and drove 2.5 hours to Grenada. Now, I gotta say, even though the driving is easy, there are police checkpoints everywhere on the highways. So be careful and keep your eyes on the road if you decide to drive. We stayed 2 nights in Grenada at Casadillas. Casadillas was a family-owned hostel that only cost us $58 for both nights. Since we were spending 2 nights in Grenada, we had a nice long itinerary of things to do. We started off by exploring the square, which was really close to our hostel. We stopped at this cathedral that had a beautiful view of the whole city of Grenada. They do charge you $1 to get in, and I'm not gonna lie, the climb to the top is a little bit of a climb. However, once you get up there, you'll see that the view is gorgeous. Grenada's architecture definitely put me in the mind of Antigua, Guatemala. After that, I was ready to try some street food, chill in the square until our cooking class at the Choco Museum. When you're in Grenada, you have to try the chocolate making class at the Choco Museum. Our guide, or our chef, Antonio, he was amazing. And this map was a clear reminder of how countries of color in the tropics fuel the world. 1 or 2 weeks of pollination. Before making our chocolate, we got a brief lesson on how cacao is cultivated into chocolate. Now, you all know I love history, so the next part was my favorite. After he showed us the cultivation process, he then walked us through the history of chocolate in the Americas. I thought this was really neat because I had actually just learned a little bit about this in Switzerland. I would definitely recommend doing some research on how chocolate was used in indigenous cultures, because it definitely didn't start with Hershey and Nestle. Now here I am trying to grind chocolate like they did back in the day. Hey, 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 hey. Y'all, that was not easy. So after my little demonstration, we sampled a few different items and then went over to make our chocolate. It was a really fun class, but once you pour your chocolate into the mold, you have to come back the next day to pick it up. So after class, it was time to do what we do best, explore. This whole area was pretty lit. There were plenty of bars and restaurants and just people out and about. We actually stumbled upon a fashion show. And I love finding stuff like this because we were out there taking pictures and videos as if it was part of the plan. Well, not everyone loves it. Whoops, sorry, friend. So the next day we went to the Garden Cafe and had a delicious breakfast. The coffee was so good and the breakfast bowl was even better. Our next stop was the Central Market. Now, let me tell you something. I love walking around markets when I travel. I feel like it is the best way to get a taste of the culture and to actually try things that you wouldn't normally try if you stay in the touristy areas. After walking around the markets for a good minute, we went and picked up our chocolates from the day before. Y'all, my hard work paid off because this chocolate came out so good. It was so rich. Mine had cinnamon and cardamom, and Lauren's had mixed nuts. The next stop was Lake Nicaragua. It was nice to see families out just vibing, chilling, but we didn't quite get in the water. It was nice to walk around though. We went back to the main square and tried the El Gordito. It was made with yuca and banana leaves. It was so good. And then I had a coyolita to go with it. Delicious. We ended the evening by going back to the main strip just to walk around and chill out. And y'all, you would not believe we stumbled across a black-owned restaurant. Yes, my phone was dying by this point, so I have few pictures, but we did get to sit and have a drink with the owner. The next morning, we were back at it with a 2-hour drive from Granada to San Juan del Sur. Before completely hitting the road, though, we stopped at Gaia Forest and had some really good breakfast. After breakfast, we hit the road for San Juan del Sur, our final destination on our journey. We got there, checked into the hostel that we booked on Airbnb, and went straight to the beach. Now, this was it. It was gorgeous. It was my favorite of all the beaches we visited. The water was nice and blue, the sun was shining, the sand was soft. It was just a really beautiful atmosphere. Now, I will admit that this area is a little bit more pricey than the others as it is a more touristy area. However, it's still very nice and highly recommended. We took a few recommendations and ended up at this restaurant on the beach that had great seafood and great views. It was really nice that we got to watch the sunset almost every day on this trip. After dinner, we went back to the hostel to get ready for our drive back to Managua the next day. But you know we could not leave without getting some ink. So I decided on a pretty unique tattoo, which was a unilome that represents the path towards enlightenment, the lotus flower, and the phases of the moon. Lauren ended up getting a quarter sleeve of her top 10 favorite stamps. And since the tats were affordable and we liked the guy so much, we ended up going back the next day for more. After our second set of tats, we went to the art warehouse for breakfast. It was a really cute cafe with my two favorite things, great drinks and fresh food. After breakfast, we hit the road back to Managua, 2.5 hours. Now the drives may be long, but they are scenic, so it feels like a really cool road trip where you can pull off at any time. We killed some time driving around Managua and then turned in the rental car, hit the airport, and went home.